How would you account for this discrepancy between you and the Twin 9000?
Well, I don't think there is any question about it. It can only be attributable to human error. This sort of thing has cropped up before, and it has always been due to human error.
Everyone, welcome to episode 17 of the Conquest of Popcorn. I'm Bardo.
I'm Pinko.
And we're here today. Another week, another movie. Sorry we've been sort of behind on shit, but we moved and all that. But this week we're lucky and fortunate enough to be joined with a good Twitter buddy. He's at Moanwater for some reason, but I think most commonly known as Hoodie Guthrie. What's up, my dude?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
Hot and sweaty, but good.
Hot and
join the club. Yeah, my name comes from it was a funny podcast, and now I gotta live with it.
Wait, what?
Moanwater was?
Yeah, Moanwater was from Comedy Bang Bang, another a comedy podcast, and I used to change my ad all the time, and then meet people, you can't change your ad anymore, so now I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, well,
Pinko Snob is not really something I identify with anymore either, but
it's good though. I don't know. I think Pinko Snob is good.
It was just because somebody called me a Pinko, and then I have this uncle in Kentucky, and he called me an elitist because I don't know, I was too liberal for him. And he said I had been corrupted by my liberal elitist professors in college.
Word. Cheers.
Was he wrong? Was he wrong?
No. Well, a little. I mean, I don't know. I don't think college is what did it to me. But
you made it through the gauntlet, the leftist gauntlet.
I was pretty left before I got to college. Much further left than him. I mean, he's a cop from Kentucky.
Yikes.
Everybody's further left than him.
Yikes.
Yeah, no doubt.
But we're here. Hoodie reached out to us about doing this movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And Pinko has never seen this movie.
That's not true. Okay, wait, we should say what we're doing and I'll tell you what I saw.
Okay, so we're doing 1968's 2001 A Space Odyssey.
And my only interaction with this movie was at a party once. Someone thought it would be cool to put just the visual on with some weird music. So
that was just the movie.
Yeah, but 15 minutes into it, everyone was like, "This sucks. Turn this all off. This music is ridiculous. This is a party, not we're not getting stoned. We're getting drunk." So
yeah, no, I mean that it is not. I mean, I've been to parties where it'd be totally appropriate, but when I think getting turned parties, not 2001, not any Stanley Kubrick. Don't put on Stanley Kubrick.
Having an existential crisis does not make a party better.
No, rarely. I mean, sometimes. I don't know. But Yeah, I mean, did you like when you reached out and said 2001? Why?
Pinko said something about I don't remember what you said, but you said something about, hey, we need some movies that we can talk about, and that to me means movies I think about a lot.
Okay.
And 2001 was a thing that sticks with you. You know, it's so open to interpretation. It's so, I mean, if you're willing to let all that stuff kind of sink in, let the whole experience kind of sink in, it's a visceral movie.
Yeah.
So it sticks with you. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you got to do that one.
Yeah. And there's like, you know, there's so much to talk about. There's so much in there. There's like so many ways you could look at it. And like, the cool thing is you could just like look at it all of the ways, and it doesn't like all of the ways don't need to be coherent with one another at all. They're just like different ways to watch this movie, and it fucking rules. I don't know.
I never thought of the food stuff until you sent that to me today.
Oh,
in my head. I was like, some crazy shit happens every single time right after somebody eats in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you should talk about what that was. Who wrote that essay?
So I'm going to preface how we're probably going to talk about this by saying, like, 2001, there's actually a really good stream of it on fucking Vimeo of all places. And like, it's, you know, the end where, if you've not seen it, this doesn't apply, but at the end, like when there's tons of colors and things like that, like no streaming service is going to do a good job like making those look as beautiful as they're actually supposed to look. But otherwise it sounds great. It looks good. Go watch the Vimeo stream if you've never seen this movie. It's 2.5 hours of your life that are like worth spending on this. But yeah, the fucking food in this movie. Yeah, it's, I mean, there's like a relationship between like the plot and the meaning, I think, and how they eat. We saw a really funny paper or article that someone wrote, sort of.
Well, who wrote it?
Who did write this?
You talk and I'll look it up.
Carson.
Yeah,
his name was Carson or something. I just read it.
But he makes the claim that the whole project is about man's relationship with food.
Josh Ronson,
the hidden mystery of 2001: meaning of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Was this essay written in 2001? That's awesome. What's this essay? Oh, 2001 is just
2007 essay.
Okay.
But the basic claim is that the monolith is an intergalactic food activist or critic. And it starts from the beginning. They're like, we're right in the beginning of this movie. We're seeing all these fucking like pre-human ape things wandering around the desert, eating like shrubs and bushes, and there's like delicious tapirs, right? Is that what they are?
I think, yeah, tapir.
Yeah.
There was one of those it's that guy that does that really good impersonation of Morgan Freeman, and he does all those nature videos that true facts about. There's a really good true facts about the tapir. That's the only reason I recognize that animal.
But yeah, the idea is, after they meet the monolith, this, you know, imposing otherworldly plank, I guess, they immediately start eating meat. They start like hunting these things. They figure out what a weapon is, and start to hunt. And it's the beginning of the monolith as the food critic of the galaxy or whatever.
It's so well shot. I just love the fact that this perfectly symmetrical sort of thing lands in the middle of a desert. It's just such a nice like juxtaposition between the level of nature and this anti-nature sort of thing there. That just, it's the first time that I felt Stanley Kubrick actually playing off this dichotomy that we see the whole time. This nature versus science sort of explosion. I mean, it's striking.
Is that something that's in his other movies? I don't know Stanley Kubrick as well as maybe you two do. I've only seen like 3 of his movies.
I mean, there's like a lot about like getting to man's. I keep okay. So when I'm gonna apologize.
I was giving Bardo shit earlier for saying man instead of humans because this is 2018.
No, and that's correct. But in the way that like thinkers who are almost all men,
dead anthropologists,
talk about like human history, they always use man. And
the dead ones do. Modern anthropologists do not say it.
It's just like ingrained into the, I don't know, my brain. I hate it, and I'm sorry, but
it's okay. I'll forgive you.
That's fair.
But shit, where was I?
You were talking about Stanley Kubrick, talking about mankind.
Yeah, and he writes a lot of movies about like tapping into like the primal man. I sort of think Clockwork Orange is a lot about that. And
is that Kubrick too?
Yeah.
I refuse to watch that movie.
You'd hate it.
I know, I would. I have a rule for movies that we watch that there can't be any like really hardcore sexual violence, and I think that's pretty much what that movie is. This is just a person. Yeah. It bothers me deeply to see. So,
but also like Dr. Strangelove, I think to a certain extent is about.
Oh, I have seen Dr. Strangelove. Okay,
yeah.
4 Kubrick movies.
And isn't The Shining Kubrick too? I mean, that's pretty.
I've seen The Shining. Eyes Wide Shut sucks.
No, but that's a different.
Eyes Wide Shut is not a good movie.
Nah. But even though I sort of think taps into the like this idea of like the trying to achieve the animal man and just like failing at it.
Do you have any thoughts about this scene? Well, Hoodie already said the juxtaposition between like the symmetrical man-made object and the animal nature desert thing.
I mean, I think the hard box in the monolith versus the nature is just like beautiful in the sense of how like basically every single scene in this is beautiful. It's if it's shots in space, it's this like incredibly like technical little man-made thing versus the vastness of the universe.
Okay. Yes.
But everything is this sort of big juxtapositions, I think.
Oh hell yeah! It's nothing but like I love it's something I learned back when I was a creative writing major in college. Is you play with dichotomies, right? You play with just this balance between two opposites. And that's what I love so much about this movie is that you play with these balances, both like in a plot structure sort of way, but also sort of with the audio, with the visuals. Everything is sort of juxtaposed against something else, and it lends itself to all different kinds of interpretations, which I think is so fascinating and so beautiful about this movie.
Excellent. Yeah. First scene.
Yeah. I don't know. Monkeys touch monolith. Monkeys
makes a noise.
Monkeys learn to eat meat,
and they evolve into man.
And they learn how to fight other tribes of monkeys.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool usage. That's such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of part of. I think the big thesis of this movie is like how humans have chose to build societies around.
How violence has shaped humanity.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's important the use of tools too. I think that when he's that scene where the first monkey is looking at the bones and just banging on other bones. You see the first time that these monkeys are actually using tools, right? And that's sort of you're the anthropology master there, Pinko, but and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the use of tools is one of the things that really separates us from the other stronger, faster, sharper animals, right?
Yeah. Well, primates use tools, and I don't think they've really. Well, that's not true because elephants use tools. Critique would be the first you see apes using like sticks to like get ants out of holes, and the kind of concept of early like very early humans is like very violent and disorderly, I think is wrong on a lot of levels. And I don't know, have you ever read Ishmael, Hoodie?
No.
So like this idea. Okay, well, Daniel Quinn, Ishmael, I highly recommend it. I had to read it in anthropology class, but it's the whole thing is structured around like a talking gorilla having a conversation with this person, and he's critiquing the idea that human evolution has been driving us toward civilization, and that this is like the pinnacle of humanity, and like that the universe was all driving toward this one point, and even that civilization is the better thing. It's kind of an anti-civ book. It's not like super anti-civ, but so that's sort of a standpoint that I've always kind of taken, that like, first of all, that we glorify violence and competition because our civilization is built on violence and competition.
Right.
But that does not mean that early humans were violent and competitive. In fact, when we look at paleo cultures, it still is not really very violent or competitive, peaceful and communal most of the time.
Yeah.
You ever read
anyway.
The history of the world? It's People's History of the World. It's sort of like a companion to Zen's People's History of the United States.
I have not read that.
I know that it exists, but I've never read it.
That like the first chapter of that book is completely dedicated to that idea that those like Enlightenment philosophers, like all those guys, are super wrong about the state of nature. Like you can't start with this idea that humanity was born violent and competitive, and that life was brutish and short. We were actually pretty damn cooperative, and that sort of opened my eyes philosophically to that sort of stuff. So I don't know if that's an answer. It sounds like now that's pretty anthropologically correct, but I guess
yes. It would be. Yeah, and then also like this idea of humans being separate from nature is very like Western civilization.
Yeah.
And I think that is present in a lot of this movie, where there's technology and progress, and then there's nature, and the two things are sort of at odds with each other. Whereas humans, we are part of nature. We're just animals. Like we may be animals that change our environment drastically, but we are still just animals.
Well, I mean, so I agree that like in terms of any sort of like leftist vision of like the progression of civilization and what that's looked like, this movie does not do that justice.
Yeah, Kubrick's pretty conservative on that point. Pretty old-fashioned.
And it was 1968. I mean, anything pop culture that's going to happen in 1968 probably is not going to adhere to our ideology.
Yeah, exactly.
So, apes fight, and we see this weapon, kind of fly up into the air, and then we have this great transition cut to satellites in 2001, like however many millions of years later. And I think it's supposed to be implied that they're nuclear weapons satellites or whatever, but it's never explicit. But we see that fluttering around, and then we see Pan Am, an airplane.
Is that
space
still
plane.
a thing?
I don't know is Pan Am still a company?
I'm too scared to fly to notice all that stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just like a German death tube that's like flying.
It smells like farts by the end of any flight.
A couple miles up.
Yet another reason not to get on a damn airplane.
You made the right decision.
You're just
I don't know if you've made it for the right reasons, but you made the right decision.
I mean, like ends and means and all that crap. I feel like at the end of the day, I think I'm right. I think you bring up a really good point that I love about the filmmaking in general is what Kubrick does here is he sets up. I think we spend so much time talking about how 2001 is sort of open to interpretation. But it's pretty simple. A lot of the things are pretty clear. A lot of the points he's making are pretty clear because scenes are set up right after other scenes. I mean, you watch the bone get thrown up in the air, and then all of a sudden the next scene is a satellite. I mean, there's nothing subtle about that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's clear that here we have the evolution of man making some sort of humans making some sort of impact on their world, right? And here it is, changing the natural world into something artificial that works for us to put us further at the top of the food chain, so to say, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and talking sort of about this, what that. So one of the reading I most get for this whole movie is like the narrative for this whole movie is also spoke Zarathustra, the Nietzsche book, and also there's another one, Beyond Good and Evil, a little bit, but when this is actually, I think, Beyond Good and Evil, where they talk about the sort of Dionysus and Apollo, and Nietzsche's take on that is like there's early man that was like full of life and energy and exploration and was into food and drink and all the things that Dionysus sort of represents, and then there's Apollo, who's the great thinker and contemplating and really focused on facts and logic, really, and that's sort of where man has come from in Dionysus, and where we are in Apollo, and that most of this juxtaposition is referencing ultimately, like, I think Kubrick probably liked Nietzsche.
Have you read Childhood's End by any chance?
Childhood's End?
Yeah, it's it's like Arthur C. Clarke's first major book.
Can you repeat that, because you kind of cut out for a second?
Sure. Childhood's End is Arthur C. Clarke's like first famous book. His first book that actually kind of. And
I've never actually read anything by him. Like, I've read a lot about 2001, the novelization, but I've never read it.
Yeah, so you're going to be much more well read than us in
That's
general.
great.
Like, I told you I don't read that much, but oh, he's the science fiction writer. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He actually worked with Kubrick on this film.
What do you think his influence was there?
So not having read Childhood's End, it's pretty clear to me, like watching 2001 the second time now, or the third time or the fourth time since reading Childhood's End anyway, it's pretty clear that 2001 is more or less Childhood's End, like a more personalized Childhood's End.
Okay.
So what's the long and short of Childhood's End?
The book's broken up into like three parts, and the first part is about it's set in like the 1960s, 1970s, something. I don't remember exactly the dates, but it's Russia and the United States doing the space race stuff. And then these aliens show up, and these aliens don't show themselves, but they say, you know what, you're going to stop all this stuff, and we're going to help you out. Pretty classic. Alien being super powerful, but also sort of benevolent,
Yeah.
It's the Vulcans.
Was that?
I said it's the Vulcans. Sorry. I'm a nerd for Star Trek.
I forgot you guys are big Star Trek nerds.
Working my way there.
Fair enough. And then the second part is about so these guys, these aliens show themselves. So the first 50 years, they don't show themselves. They just kind of run stuff. In the next 50 years, they show themselves and sort of work with humanity to make stuff better.
Okay.
And then the last chunk is you start to see these humans are being born. This last third, these little babies are being born, and they're different. They have telepathic powers, and they're sort of super powered babies. And all the adult humans are sort of freaking out about it. And long story short is these aliens that come are sort of mediums for a different master, like Godhead sort of metaphysical. I don't know how to put it, but sort of a Godhead sort of guy. And his job is to make humanity evolve into something better, into something, quote unquote. Okay. And these little babies go to this island, and the rest of humanity just sort of dies out. and humanity, quote unquote, evolves into something better through this outside force.
Some eugenics shit.
Yeah.
Sorta. Yeah, sorta.
You could, I mean, it's weird, like, because, I mean, the fucking Nazis love Nietzsche, and like, this is exactly what Nietzsche thought. Nietzsche was like, we need to push hard to make that evolutionary step into whatever is next. I don't know. It is what this movie is about, and I can see Arthur C. Clarke like seeing this and finding that attractive and things like that. Even if it didn't
sort of
like that.
In some way, like Arthur C. Clarke in Childhood's End calls them overlords or the aliens, and the overman is this new form of human that's living on this island, right? So it's even like it's steeped, it's dripping with Nietzsche, sort of almost Nietzsche vocabulary, right? Yeah,
it does sound. It's really a very small twist of the screw to get to from Ubermensch to you said Overman?
Yeah, so Overman or Overbaby, or it's definitely over something.
Yeah. All right, yeah, that is. Okay, so the next scene we have our main character, whose name was I'm sorry,
it's not our main character though. Oh. It's I forget what the first guy's name is.
The doctor.
Oh, the scientist.
Yeah, so he gets to the space station, and there's a Howard Johnson inexplicably. There's like a Howard Johnson around here that I think is a Wendy's now.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But so he is like on this very, very fancy space station, and he has some conversations with some very posh looking people.
Some Russians, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About they tell him that there's a station he's going to.
He's going to the moon.
The moon.
And they've heard some rumors about the moon.
The communications have cut out there. I don't know why.
Right, and they think they think that there's some sort of epidemic going on up there, right? And that's what's killing everybody, and that's why no one can talk to him.
Yeah. And our scientist boy plays dumb because he's a good stooge.
Oh, so he does know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we get to see. I mean, so one of the other themes I think running through this movie is like how boring the future is.
Yeah, it's awful. It just looks like an Apple store, but with bad furniture. Like the furniture is ugly and uncomfortable looking. I'm sorry. I like furniture. It's a weird tidbit about me. I used to work in an interior decorating museum.
Oh shit.
And yeah, a Wintertime Museum in Delaware. It's interior design. But anyway, I just noticed how sterile and uncomfortable and dated everything. I'm glad 2001 didn't really look like this movie.
But it was just like exactly like the 60s, and that it's just just payphones and like
that's the best part.
About like what like old past concepts of what the future will look like, especially when they're talking about a future that we've already experienced. Like, what do they think the future will be? Like, there's going to be jetpacks and flying cars, or in Stanley Kubrick's case, it's going to be the 60s, but in space. Like, we have reached the pinnacle of like what society could be, and it's not going to change in aesthetics at all.
Yeah,
Jetsons.
It's just going to become more advanced. And even like women's roles didn't change at all. I mean, Kubrick, I think, was a huge sexist. I picked it up.
Pretty sure.
Like, I don't think he really had a lot of respect. I mean, first of all, every woman who ever shows a boob in any of his movies has the exact same boob. This is on purpose. He had to have been checking before he hired actresses.
No shit.
Have you heard? Okay, Eyes Wide Shut. There's lots of nudity in that movie, and all of the women have the same like breast shape, and it just like creeped me out so much watching that movie. But
you'd think I would like pay attention to the breast shape, but apparently I don't remember that.
Too woke.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Your old white boy in suburbia was too woke for that.
Yeah.
But like the women in his films always play these sort of submissive roles, And even in The Shining, like the strongest female character, and even she, like, it took her husband trying to kill her son with an axe for her to realize this guy is fucked up. So, like, you know, I like the women in his future in 2001 are still like, his wife is at home with their daughter who is having a birthday. His daughter doesn't seem like the brightest bulb, no offense. I don't like to speak ill of a child, but
wait, do you know what a bush baby is? It sounds racist.
Doll, right?
It's a tiny little like primate.
I thought it was a doll, but
A
little
what?
doll?
No, it's like,
I feel like, okay, so
they have like giant eyes and they're like really small. Yeah, it's like one of
Is this
one
gonna
of
work?
these little things.
Oh, no
Do you
shit.
see this?
Okay. All right. Well, who doesn't want one of those? Shit.
Tiny little marsupial.
Yeah, I mean, his daughter wants a little tiny primate for the birthday, which is fucking weird. But
Yeah, primate, not marsupial.
Wasn't that actually his kid or something like that too? I think that kid is somewhat tied to the production.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Tweeted out about somewhat recently, you know, that whole conspiracy theory that Kubrick filmed the fucking moon landing or something like that.
Yep.
And she tweeted out a whole
obviously.
thread about how that was
That.
bullshit. So I'm pretty sure
Wait, what?
that was the kid that we saw in the film.
Yeah, and then so what else? Okay, so yeah, he then flies from the space station to the moon, no, another satellite by the moon. I think, right, is where he has his meeting.
I don't know.
In a really sterile looking boardroom.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Another awful room.
Nothing about this movie pretty when it comes to room furniture.
Like an awful blue. It looks like a hospital or something. It's bad.
Yeah, but again, just like the future is fucking boring, man. It's just like boardrooms. It's just in space. You don't even float around. It's just like,
Boardrooms in
just you have to go to work in space.
You have to go do trust falls in space.
Oh yeah.
0G trust falls.
Oh, you poor person.
I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of trust falls at work. Not really, but like things like that. Yeah. So I don't even know what they're talking about.
At the boardroom, they sort of lay out that they found a thing on the moon, and they've outlined a plan, telling everyone, telling anyone who asks that everyone is sick on the moon, and we're sorry for your families that think you're dead. But they, I don't know.
Like shadowy sort of organization.
What?
He works for some shadowy sort of organization that we never see, and it's like, yeah, he's sort of just a representative for this group of people who clearly call the shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's space capitalism.
Yeah, he's the cigarette smoking man of the moon.
It's funny. It's funny when you rewatch this movie, you realize that. Well, at least I did. It was like, oh man. My first thought is, oh, that's cheesy. Oh, that's cheesy. And then I realized that, well, this is like the genesis of so many different sci-fi tropes. But it's not cheesy.
Yeah.
It's just the first time you ever see this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like for all of like how boring and sterile and annoying I think Kubrick's vision of the future is, that probably is what our space exploration future will be if we allow it to be taken over by like Silicon Valley nerds. Yeah. I mean, like if Elon Musk actually like has his vision come to fruition, it's going to be 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah. Like that is what the space is. It's going to look like a fucking Apple store. It's going to suck. There's going to be board meetings and shadowy overseen like things where you can't talk to your family and they think you're dead. That's what it's going to be like.
Monochromatic.
Yeah. But they go to the moon.
Have flight attendants on these things. They have their sticky grip shoes and like walking looks really awful to them.
And those fucking hats?
Yes, and those hats! Who was wearing that? But yeah, they have those like trays of food that they get from some button press dispenser, which is totally like airline food. But like even worse because it's dispensed through straws. You open the little cartons and there's a straw for your peas and carrots. Which why?
Yeah.
Why?
If you're gonna feed me food through a straw, don't give me peas and carrots either.
No.
Give me
Hook
something.
me up with some pudding. Like I'm good with some pudding, peas and carrots. Like
Thank you. Even a
Jell-O.
strawberry pudding.
Yeah. Jello period of time. Like, why not some Jello?
Yeah.
Jello.
It would look fucking cool in space too.
Mm-hmm.
You spit them out. Jello tricks.
Yeah, fly around and catch it in your mouth.
Maybe that's why they didn't serve Jello.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, for production.
But now we're about to go, gaze upon one of humanity's most important scientific discoveries, according to them. And
it's the food critic.
And they
and
pull
he's
out
there to yell at them about the straws.
But they pull out fucking a cooler and they're like, ham sandwich?
Oh yes, the ham sandwich part. Referencing, I think, the pig things from before. Because that's what in our genes man wants ham.
Yeah.
Because that was the first meat.
We all just want to be eating tapirs all the time. But just sort of like the casualness of like they're eating these like this shitty food right before they like gaze upon something truly unknown is fucking weird to me. But yeah, then they find the monolith,
the food critic,
who screams to his food critic on Jupiter, and there's this.
They're eating ham sandwiches.
Okay. So, were you watching this with Penny?
What?
Were you watching this scene with Penny? Was Penny in the room?
She was asleep.
Did she not lose her shit? Because my dog was not okay with that sound.
I think Penny's gotten used to weird sounds. She did kind of look up, but like Barto does a lot of weird experimental music, so like Penny's kind of like desensitized, I think.
Penny's a good dog.
She's a good dog. She was sleeping and I think was happy to be in the air conditioning with us. But
I love that dichotomy again. You come back to those opposites. They're just eating these disgusting sandwiches and speaking at the same time, completely uncivilized, just mouthful of food. And then they see the giant monolith that might be responsible for all human evolution, not what the next scene later. Fascinating.
And this piercing sound happens, and I think I'm actually going to clip that in because y'all deserve to deal with it too.
Warn your dog.
And then we sort of jump ahead to, I think, 18 months later. Something like that. And there we have a new protagonist in a new spaceship floating towards Jupiter.
I didn't realize they were different people.
Yeah. Different kind of shadowy figure versus actual scientist.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
His name was Bowman, right?
Yep, Bowman.
So what struck you about these scenes, the next part here, Hoodie?
We brought it up a few times, but again, with this monochromatic sort of, visually speaking, this monochromatic sort of dullness. Everything seems very, very utilitarian. It made me sad. Like there's no, until you get to the final scene, which maybe that's the whole point here. Maybe the whole point is everything's super utilitarian until we get to this. We're going to talk about it anyway. This was creepy, sort of like French Revolution style Versailles.
Oh, yeah, the like Rococo, like fucking mansion thing.
It's odd.
Yeah, it's an odd place. A human zoo, I think, is what I've read it described as.
Yeah, I think that's what Kubrick said. And also, I start to feel, as someone who struggles with, again, we talked about my inability to fly. This disorientation that starts happening a lot. All the spinning.
Yeah.
Constantly. In my head.
Camera turn. I think the thing that really I thought was great was the guy seems really bummed in like to start with. Like he's laying in his weird little bed that looks like a doctor table, and he's wearing his shoes for some reason. And I think he's relaxing. And his parents have called to wish him happy birthday, and they're eating a cake for him, which is odd to me. We baked you a cake. You can't eat it, which maybe is more about this food thing that we keep like he is in this sterile environment and he has to eat these little rectangular trays of orange and green and brown.
Yeah, the food looks even worse at this point.
It's just goo.
Incredible. It's like everything is lentils. Is everything just some kind of different kind of lentil up there?
Pureed lentils, pureed carrots, and I don't know what is that bright green. Maybe avocado.
That'd be rad.
Yeah. I love avocado goo. I would eat that. But meanwhile, back on Earth, back where humans are meant to be, his parents are having this decadent dessert without him.
Yeah, that's true.
And they tell him to say hi to God for them, which is cute.
Oh, really? I forgot.
Isn't that what he said?
I just must have zoned out on that one too.
The dad says, "Say hi to God for me." Isn't that what he says?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe I might be wrong. This might be where I was like. We kind of watched this movie in two parts because I kind of like dozed off partway through and we had to stop.
Everything's very quiet. Everything's very representative of the place they are. There's no audio cues like we see in most movies. Like, oh, I'm supposed to feel intense here. No, it's nothingness. So I absolutely see if you're watching that thing at 11 o'clock at night after a long day at work, pass right out.
Yeah, that's like a good point though. Like. The beginning and the like musical score and all that, like it feels very dramatic, and then the rest of the movie is sort of sterile and emotionless.
Yeah, I mean, you have these very up until really the Jupiter mission, and even still you get some, but there's all this like beautiful music associated with ships flying through space and like the wonder of space travel. But once we're on that mission, everything outside of space, when there's no air, it's quiet.
Oh, isn't that gorgeous? It's like almost my favorite part of this entire film.
Yeah, it's just the starkness of like humans in this fucking universe. It's just like you have the little bubbles that they're in where like there's beeps and whistles and words and all like this shit happening, and then but like right outside that bubble, it's just like nothing.
It's nothing. And I feel like if there was music that would suggest that somebody somewhere or something gives a shit. Like if there's intense music, something is observing and gives a shit. But if there's nothing, I mean that really speaks to the fact that that creation doesn't give a shit about us.
Right. Yeah.
But like, okay, so even when the computer HAL 9000 starts fucking with them, and it starts being clear that he's like sabotaging them, there's not really a lot of emotional response. It kind of made me think a little bit like as soon as I saw that there was like a sentient computer, it's like, oh, it's something like Alien where the android turns against them. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen Alien. But like in Alien, it's intense and emotional and like we are terrified the whole time. And this time I'm like, I don't trust that robot, but which is kind of how our interaction with technology is now. Like I was making that joke comparing the HAL 9000 to the Nest.
Yeah.
And like how you feel about Siri and like Cortana or whatever. Like they're all fucking spying on you. But we make jokes and we don't really act that freaked out, even though we know that it's pretty fucking freaky.
Yeah.
What's ubiquitous, right? Like it's just always kind of there. So it like if something's always there, it becomes mundane.
And HAL is mundane, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, again, everything is mundane. It's the fucking future. And
but that's like the whole point is that we've become our interaction with technology and the way that we've built our society is bad, but we just don't feel it anymore. We've desensitized ourselves to it.
Yeah. The specific parameters of HAL he's a machine that can't fuck up, essentially. He's infallible, and we see a mistake. Apparently, there's a there's a communications disc that goes down, and it doesn't actually seem like it's down. And
yeah,
so
what do you make of that? Like,
either he's lying or there's human error, and Hal keeps saying human error is like a thing, which I think actually ties into the bigger themes of this movie. But you know, because we've mundanely created technology that will can just mundanely murder us if it chooses to. But
so Hal is built to not lie, but also Hal has to keep a secret.
But we learn eventually that Hal has to keep a secret.
it's very Asimov.
Yes.
Did you ever think so? I don't know how familiar you are. I mean, you're clearly pretty familiar with like philosophy and stuff, but I caught a lot of like deist sort of stuff with Hal. The whole question of how can something perfect create something imperfect? Like the whole deism idea that, you know, we're perfect because God's perfect, but how could something like humanity, something imperfect like us, create something that never makes a mistake? I mean, the idea that Hal is perfect is on the basis of us being imperfect, sort of a fallacy, right?
Right. So, you know, I guess real quick, just sort of looking at the environment that they're in, we have 3 sleeping other crew members, and then our hero and another dude are both awake and active, and then there's Hal. Hal does things as mundane as like play chess with them, but also like, you know,
also throws that one guy into space and kills him.
Yes.
Something mundane as murder. Yeah.
With the robot thing, I thought it was cool when the little like drone was coming toward him. It looked like it was reaching out for a hug.
I mean,
to me, but that kills him.
It's like the OG Frankenstein, when like Frankenstein is like let loose for the first time and sort of does that fucking like arms out thing, and you know Frankenstein's monster is fucking loose.
It's fascinating. I never made that connection. That's fascinating.
This is the teacher coming out. That's fascinating. Good point.
Yeah, tell me more.
I mean, so Hal basically realized that these 2 pilots, when they are plotting against him, or at least suspicious of him, and so we already have this little hiccup in its system, and then it's sort of the machine goes into berserk mode.
It's like this is the first of a relatively few problems I have with the movie. I feel like our two fellas somehow should have known that Hal could read lips, or how do these guys have no idea the capabilities of this ship, that AI that's controlling everything they do? Like, even if you don't know he can read lips, you know that he controls, and they said this, he controls every single aspect of this ship. How do you not avoid this red eye that is watching you at all times? How do you not understand that he's actually seeing you?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually, I kind of thought about that too. Like, why did they have that conversation right in front of him?
I mean,
is Hal a boy? Like, can we call it? What are Hal's?
He calls him
a man.
That news guy says he's a man.
Okay.
Yeah. I forgot that. Good. Thank you.
Speaking of the gender of the robot.
Speaking of,
have you noticed how we code our helpful good robots female? Like the computer in Star Trek is a woman, but our nefarious ones are male. Our robots that have agency are male, and our robots that are subservient are female. I don't know. Whatever. Like, okay, iRobot, it's a boy.
Yeah, that's bad. I don't know. I've never seen iRobot.
That's what I'm saying. In iRobot, they turn against everyone.
Oh wait, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's like the whole point of the movie.
And Rosie from is a lovely young woman, right? Is he's made? Yeah, I think you're.
Which one?
Rosie from the Jetsons.
The only bad girl robot I can think of is Portal's Gladys. That's the only one. But Portal is kind of subverting that on purpose, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I love
talking video games. I'm in too. You guys are talking right up my alley.
Shit. Where were we? Okay. Oh, yeah.
You're talking about the
Yeah, they're playing chess, right?
Reading lips and shit. Even before, like when they were playing chess, you saw Hal reading. God, I keep forgetting his fucking name because I'm terrible with names. Yeah. See him reading his lips as he's muttering the moves to himself.
That's how it goes.
Holy shit! I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like it's implied. I think it's one of those like I just watched this and learned this already, and now I'm gonna. It's like, oh, he could be reading his lips there, but
well, the thing about that is they talk about Bowman mentions, oh man, are you doing a psychological report on me, right? As they're playing chess, and then the next scene, we get the equipment failure. Stuff's going to go down in 72 hours thing. I mean, again, we see these scenes set up right next to each other that really suggest a lot of this underlying sort of story that's being told. If you're paying attention, you catch on to it.
Right. Eventually, they're pilot out into going out to repair this satellite dish or whatever. And, I don't know. He doesn't actually Bowman doesn't actually see the pilot get launched into space by this sort of rogue machine. But he goes out and fucking chases after him like a boss to bring his lifeless body.
All hell, dude. Like, dude is just calm as all hell. He just goes out. I'm gonna get my friend. I'm gonna bring him in. I can't imagine that.
Well, and that's again this monotony thing. Like it's theoretically like a scene. It's a chase scene, really, but it's a chase scene where you're just seeing shots of this ball in nothingness, essentially, because there's nothing there to like have the space pod moving against. It's like it's not moving at all, and so the stakes feel incredibly low. And he's just pressing buttons, and there's just a bunch of beeps and lights, and
for the majority of it, you can't tell the difference between the body and the stars. It just kind of looks like Homeboy is just sitting and looking at the stars.
Right, and so the stakes feel very low in a scene that any other time this scene's filmed, because this scene's filmed all the time. It's rushing. There's like music. There's something to create tension, but it's all fucking procedural, and that's like the whole thing. Again, the future's boring and procedural, and he just have to keep clicking all these buttons, keep doing. There's just this beep beep. There's this target. I don't know. It's fucking weird. But then Hal locks him out, which.
And he won't respond, right? Like it
well, he does eventually.
Eventually, but like it takes Bowman just keeps asking him and asking him and asking him, and there's at the point in the movie where I start to feel sort of and pardon my my referencing a sort of problematic asshole, right? But like it's very Lovecraftian. Like there's this horror. This movie is horrifying. If you are open to this idea that the horror is sort of outside of our vision a little bit, like this horror, there's death and there's horror and there's terror outside of anything that we can actually see, and that's like, to me, that's the best horror there is.
Yeah, the existential horror, and it's I can't really think of anything more scary than being 4 months from home or whatever, and in a tiny little pod in space, and my one friend who's alive in there won't talk to me anymore.
And you're at work. Dying at work has got to be the God, I hope I don't die at fucking work. Jeez, every time I hear a story about somebody dying at work, I'm like, man, that guy died at work. That's the worst place to die. The last thing you saw was your fucking boss.
Yeah. And you can be the primary sources to some kids that don't give a shit, and you're just gonna keel over.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna get cussed out by a student and I'm gonna be like, man, I really just want to try to get through to you, and I'm just gonna die. And they're gonna feel really bad. Actually, I'll probably feel vindicated there because they fucking will feel bad.
That's
they
true.
killed Miss Pinko.
There's harder. There's not a way I can think of a better way to get through to a kid than dying in front of him. The best teacher.
Yeah, Golden Apple Award for the teacher that dies in the classroom, proving a point.
You know what though? My luck. It'll be at one of these fucking professional developments. That's where I'm gonna die. I have PD every Friday. I know. So I'm gonna be doing a trust fall, and I'm just gonna die.
And someone's not gonna catch you, and that's how you're gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yikes! But yeah, so he eventually gets in through this like emergency shaft or whatever, and decides. And it's a really cool scene where they like throw it in your face that it's like it's been fucking quiet for the last 20 minutes or whatever, because like it's an airlock room and it goes from being totally silent to this like as the room fills up with air or whatever.
Brilliant.
And it's intense. Yeah. You feel it in your gut.
And he's just thrown around like a rag doll too. It's so beautiful. It's just. I feel like every scene sort of reinforces this motif that we mean jack shit in the grand.
Yeah. You do feel very small watching this movie.
Yeah.
And they're in this weird sperm-shaped spacecraft, and it does look like a sperm.
Yeah. And Jupiter is the egg, baby.
And then at the end, we get this baby, right?
We get this fucking weird baby.
Written like a whole like sort of theory about how this is just a big porno, like a big like symbolic fuck session.
The like weird lights and music part is the fucking.
I'm not. I mean, what? Are there many pornos that end with a baby being born?
There is definitely a subset of porno that is focused on just that thing. I'm sure of it. I have a friend who told me that she was chatting with on the interwebs, and he was very interested in the idea of pregnancy and talking to her about a past pregnancy. And she was like, "What do I do with this guy?" And I'm like, stop talking to him. No, there's lots of people real into it. It's weird.
Yeah, but does the baby get born at the end? This is
I can't.
It's a porno that just ends with like straight up childbirth.
Yeah.
What? Go further. Why don't porno that ends with taking a kid to daycare, watching them graduate?
A porno that ends with like sitting a child down and asking them why their grades suck so bad, like. Grounding a child. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. That's the title of the porno. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Oh, I'm sure that exists. There's got to be a subset of people who can't, reach completion until someone's disappointed in them.
And yeah,
I'm sure that exists. Isn't that like cuck porn and findom? Right there?
I mean that's sort of that, but it's not like you're like, not in a completely non-sexual way by your teenager or whatever.
Oh well,
matronly.
But yeah, anyway, he gets in, he decides to shut this thing down, and has this little key and is unlocking all these little like hard drives, I guess. Have you heard the argument that 2001 is like the Odyssey?
No. Well, that's fascinating.
About the Odyssey to like really dissect that one, but they keep.
I know a good chunk. So what would be that? Do you know what that scene would be right then? In the Odyssey.
What is fuck? What does he kill? What is Odysseus? Does Odysseus kill the Cyclops with? I think it's like a little pointy thing, something small and pointy. I don't remember what it is.
Is it a spear?
It might be a spear. I'm not sure, but something that the person who put this all together reminded them of the small key And I don't remember enough of the references.
He just kills the Cyclops with a sword.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that's
it's
it.
a sword.
I mean, okay.
He draws a sword to kill the Cyclops in his sleep.
In his sleep. That's
This is what
badass.
I'm reading.
Oh, the Cyclops
book
is
summary.
sleeping.
Not a good English teacher.
Tutoring ELA this year. That's gonna be an adventure. We are not reading the Odyssey though.
Why would you?
We're gonna read Lord of the Flies, which I think is a little.
That's more fun.
I've read it so many times. And we're going to read Tears of a Tiger.
Do you have a choice of what you're reading, or is that like your cooperating teacher's choice?
It's my so there's like a teacher who like gives us lesson plans, and then we tutor based on that. But okay, what is the deal with being fucking depressing? Why are they all so sad? Like, we're reading a book about a kid who was driving a car and he got into a crash, and then his best friend died, and now he's dealing with the guilt of it. And like when I was in school, we read like it was like these kids at a prep school, and the like really cool kid that everybody loved breaks his leg, and they think he's gonna be okay, and then it turns out that like a little piece of bone from his leg went to his brain and killed him. I'm like, why is there just like a dead kid in every young adult novel?
I swear to God, it has to do with rigor, right? Teachers are so obsessed with this idea that we need to be super challenging to kids, and there's nothing challenging about a happy ending or something funny. It has to be something challenging, like, oh, your best friend died, and now you're dealing with your, meth addiction or something like that. Like, you can be funny. It's okay to be light.
I think I was the only person that wasn't mad about a school district deciding not to teach To Kill a Mockingbird anymore.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so they didn't want to do it because it deals with rape and racial violence, and maybe asking a group of ninth graders to tackle these very triggering subjects in the classroom isn't the best way to go. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with this. Like, kids don't need to be like struggling with like calling people like the N-word and dealing with like a rape, but it was really her father, but she's blaming a black guy. Like, everybody else that I was saying, I'm coddling them too much. But I'm like, have you met kids? Like, they're dealing with a lot. I don't know. And rant. Sorry.
No, you're good. I totally fucked up recently with that. I'm teaching Parable of the Sower. And I had some, and this sort of offhand mention, she mentions a rape and a suicide. And I had some kids who were, like, in the strictest sense of the word, triggered by it. And I was like, oh, fuck, I totally forgot to mention this was going to happen. And I had a really, really brave kid come up to me look, Mr. Whatever, Mr. Guthrie. This bothers me and my friends. Can we do something else? And I mean, of course, we're going to figure out how to do that. But I totally fucked up and didn't even think that, as a guy who's never been raped and never really dealt with suicidal thoughts, I didn't even think about it. So good on you, and good on people thinking about that sort of stuff. I mean, I know that's a different rant.
I didn't speak in like the ninth grade, and that whole, or was it like the eighth grade? I don't know. The whole book is just about a girl dealing with a rape. Like, that's what the whole book is about. She was raped, and then she has to deal with it. And I'm like, at the time that wasn't something I was familiar with, but I'm sure lots of my classmates were.
Yeah.
Especially I was living in, like, Jesus.
For some reason, I got the option to read The Hot Zone in 6th grade, which is all about the Ebola virus, which really fucked with me. As soon as the black bile started coming, it really, I shut down that thing. This is not quite as traumatic, but I really hated throwing up as a kid, and reading a book about throwing up was just too much for me. So awesome. I appreciate both of you thinking about your choices. Triggered by
or at least fixing. Anyway, back to movies.
Yeah.
This movie about basically being like, hey, you were fucking tricked. You were sent to Jupiter because we think there's fucking aliens there. We just didn't want to tell you this, which was the lie, or the secret Hal was keeping, the lie Hal was telling that makes him go insane, I guess.
Again, we've got this scene where he's shutting Hal down, and then the next thing that happens is, oh shit, sorry dudes, we were lying to you. Here's the real reason why you're here. It's like, it's not this good. This movie feels like it's really, really subtle, but it's never subtle if you're paying attention.
Yeah. It's. I mean, each plot point is just like. I mean, every scene is like, this is a plot point.
Yeah.
And it might take a long time to get through it, but it's like this is the thing that's happening. But then the fucking space monolith shows itself.
The food critic.
The great food critic outside of Jupiter. And we see some of the most beautiful, such beautiful imagery. We've not even really talked about like the alignment shots and all of those things of like the eclipse and all that
and
shit.
And the weird like 3-minute scene of just like lights and sounds.
But I guess, I mean, a couple things. I have a couple things to bounce off you. Do you have strong feelings about, is the monolith something in particular besides, just the starkness of it? What the fuck is going on when he's flying through his psychedelic world?
That's great questions. I always felt like there's some theories out there that Kubrick used this sort of the shape of the thing as a very, very particularly, and I believe this because I don't think Kubrick did anything accidentally. No. And the shape of this thing is one of the things I read before preparing for this was that it's an upside down, or it's a movie screen.
Yeah.
On its side.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you were gonna say it's a penis, but that was a different space movie that we did already.
Yeah, fair. No, I'm too insecure I'm too living in toxic masculinity to admit that would be a giant penis and then make me feel insecure about myself.
Movie screen. Some sort of
that's
reflection.
Kubrick's penis.
Reflection
a movie screen.
A movie screen.
Movie screens are
that triggers shifts in human evolution.
Everyone touching it, right? I don't think we've talked so much about the tactile sort of all these people touching it. Every time one of those things pops up, like the monkeys grab it, right?
Touch it and it screams.
Yeah, it screams. And then Floyd touches it. And then we switch to 18 months later, and then right at the end, right, we see
he tries to
an old man reaching out for this giant, square penis.
Wow.
Movie screen. He just wants to touch. He wants to touch the silver screen. He wants to be part of the movies.
But that's it. Everyone's trying to be part of Hollywood. Maybe that's the whole.
Did you watch that? I mean, there's a couple people who notoriously came to that movie screen conclusion. Did you watch that Dave Eggers stuff about, or no?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. He's one of those dudes who he's like totally dissected every Kubrick movie and also thinks like Kubrick is a like gold standard libertarian and things like that.
Oh, God.
Which may or may not be true. I'm not sure. But, Clockwork Orange is about the EU actually and things like that.
Sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. He's one of the people who came to that conclusion that like, it's like, you silly goofs, it's a movie screen, but.
No, I think it's a penis.
Yeah. I look, I saw it every time you saw it, it's in stark contrast to everything around it. And that to me says all that suggests to me about its shape and its color is that it's something otherworldly. It's something we don't understand. It's something that exists beyond what we kind of know, right? So first time we see it, it's in the middle of this desert around all these monkeys and it's super weird. Next time we see it, it's dug up in the middle of this hole in Mars, and it's super weird. The last time we see it is now it's in this middle of this 17th, 18th century French room. All I see it is this diametrically opposed sort of visual thing, right? It's just out of place. It's not human. It's not us. That's kind of the only way I took it.
A stain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it is weird and out of place in every place you see it.
Except sort of when it's like amongst the planets. It keeps blending in and out of,
space,
Maybe that's where it's in its element.
I mean, agreed.
But whenever it's interacting
right? We see a lot of, which makes sense to me, and I don't mean to talk over you, Pinko, but like, so we see that's when Homeboy is like, space, and he's sent off, and that's death, and everything's super scary, super anti-human. It's hostile to us outside of space. So if it's like sort of not juxtaposed, it feels like this monolith is at home in space. That maybe suggests that this monolith is somewhat hostile to us, or maybe what we are at a given time.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hostile to us as humans, but it also made us humans in the first place, which maybe comes back to the idea that conflict is what makes humans humans.
I mean, I think that's sort of his thesis to a certain extent. It's like, actually, our first tools weren't weapons, but in Kubrick's world, they are.
Kubrick is going off of a very popular concept of what human evolution was.
Yeah, totally.
Like, Kubrick isn't an anthropologist. He's going off of like what Jordan Peterson thinks anthropology is.
Yeah.
Like,
don't ruin this movie for me, Pinko.
I mean, I like Kubrick's movies, but I feel like if I ever like were to meet Kubrick, like Kubrick and I would not have gotten along.
Thankfully, he died.
Well, there we go. I mean, like, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think that if, like, for some reason, like, when I die and I go to the afterlife, Kubrick and I are going to sit down and I'm like, dude, you're wrong about a lot of things. And he's going to be like, fuck you, lady.
Yeah,
like, who are you? Some dumb anthropologist or whatever? Like, I think that as an artist, he's great. As a person,
questionable.
It's like Dali. Like, as an artist, amazing. Salvador Dali. As an artist, amazing. As a person, he was a fucking fascist. Like,
yeah, I can't think of an artist I admire that isn't in some way super disappointing.
Andrew WK.
Yeah.
Frida Kahlo.
He's gonna run on a Andrew WK 2020.
That led to his death. So there we go.
Party all the time.
So, party all the time. Field something.
Sorry, I missed that.
Is the psychedelic journey he goes on? What is that? Is that something? Is that?
I don't know if it's anything deeper than just sort of disassociating the viewer from anything that we can hold on to as real. I mean, there's a lot of things on there that's pretty not real, but everything's sort of relatively grounded. I mean, we're in rooms. We've all been in rooms, right? And then and then when everything happens, it's sort of, tell me if I'm wrong here, or if you think I'm wrong, but all these lights and all this stuff for so long. I mean, it's an incredible length of time to just show us lights and things bending. Yeah. It's meant to sort of disassociate us from anything that's real. And right before that, it says something like beyond infinity or.
Right. Yeah. Was it the last line?
Okay, I'm going to make a statement, a thought about the psychedelic journey that is maybe a little basic. You're saying disassociating us from the real. It's the hero's journey.
Wait.
Oh, shit. What? Okay, so wait.
Okay, so part of, the hero's journey, I forget who came up with that theory. I tried to write a paper about it in college and got very shot down. And I was mad about my professor about this. But anyway, there's a part in it where the way into the other world, and then he meets a guardian person who got. So the psychedelic journey going through your weird gateway, and then he gets through it, and there's this man eating food in this fancy room.
Who is him?
But then it's him.
Yeah.
But he has to sit there and look at the man for a minute. No. And how this could be our person. Anyway, that's my very I think that the hero's journey is a very basic analysis. I'm saying basic in the way that we were telling T today that listening to Nirvana is basic. Like it's real. Like everybody has talked about this. It's the pumpkin spice latte of literary analysis and film analysis. But I still think it's a useful tool to have in your pocket.
Yeah,
because a lot of literature is based off of this format.
It was super interesting.
I mean,
and a lot of film.
You bring that up.
I think you're totally. I think right.
So I was listening to your to the episode about the Incredibles, and I've used the Incredibles to teach the hero's journey. Like 4 out of my 6 years of teaching. I think.
Oh, really?
Campbell was onto something.
Wait, really?
It might have been just
That's
like
cool.
Jungian sort of stuff, like really basic Jungian sort of stuff, but like it's useful. It's totally useful.
I tried to write a paper. Nobody is going to be familiar with this artist, but she's a surrealist painter named Remedios Varo, and I love her. She's from Spain, and all of her artwork is sort of autobiographical. And I was trying to argue that it's both an autobiography, but it like if you look at her whole work, it's an autobiography, but it's telling her story as the hero's journey. Like this woman had to like move to Mexico to escape Nazis and shit. Like she went through it. She was a Republican in the Spanish Revolution, and then after that, the Nazis. She had to go to France because of that, and then the Nazis came, and then she had to go to Mexico. So like.
She's leaving the old world and moving into the new.
Yeah, constantly that was her life, was escaping danger and going on adventures and being like a dissident, you know? So like, but anyway, I tried to write this paper and my professor like really shot me down hard. I still kind of resent it. I might still write that fucking paper. I don't know. I'm gonna send it to her like, you didn't understand what I was trying to say. Here's the fucking paper, bitch. Read it. Sorry.
Mail it to him.
Say bitch, but whatever.
With no return address.
No, that professor was one of my favorite professors in college because she really challenged me, but still think she was wrong about this paper.
So fuck you.
Anyway.
So and then the zoo. The zoo.
Oh, the zoo.
What's going on?
The human zoo.
So like, you know, it's him looking at himself and then being aged, and then looking at himself and then being aged, and it's these really kind of, like you said, disorienting movements through the space, and then we finally see him eat a good meal for the first time in the movie that we've seen anyone really eat a good meal. And
I don't know. I think that those early humanoids, early hominids were really chowing down.
Yeah, I mean, it looked tasty, yeah, but not. I like
that and sex. What else you got?
Yeah,
fighting.
And then we see him as an old man in bed, and he's pointing. It's sort of like a fucking creation of Adam painting.
I missed that.
When he like points at the monolith from, and it's, you know, he does the same sort of thing, and we get this again in Nietzsche. You have the Uberman is preceded by I think he actually says like a space baby or something weird like that. Like this is oddly specific. But yeah, what the fuck is, so I get that part, but what the fuck is happening in the room before this? Like, why is he, do we think he loses time like this? Do we think like this was just instance, or is he spending 30 years in there, or is he?
It's beyond the infinite, right? So I wonder if this is just outside of time, where he's existing both as the guy the Bowman that just showed up, and the Bowman that's sort of an old man eating, and the Bowman that's dead reaching out for the monolith. I wonder if like this room is created for him that just doesn't adhere to, again, anything that we understand. And here we are again, with a monolith showing up, and everything's weird, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever read Slaughterhouse-Five?
I have no. I mean, that's Vonnegut, right?
Yeah.
I think. Wait, no, I didn't read that one. False. Nope.
No, I read the other one. Okay.
Written actually, Slaughterhouse 5 is written after this, which is sort of interesting. But like a lot of Slaughterhouse 5, it's this dude, who is in a human zoo.
Okay.
And a lot of it, like aliens abduct this guy from World War II. He's hiding out in a factory during the bombing of Dresden, and he's pulled out by these aliens, and he's living in a human zoo.
So this is like an idea that would have been in like the zeitgeist when Kubrick made this movie. Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
I'm curious about that because I don't see it anywhere else outside of this movie and Slaughterhouse 5. This idea of interest was terrifying and fascinating, but I wonder what's going on in the late 60s where this is a thing that's living in everyone's mind.
There was a Futurama episode about it.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you're right. There was.
That's the only other thing I can think of, though.
Where Fry and Leela go on that vacation. And then
like a sexy vacation, and then they find out everybody's...
God, I'm telling you, that's what's happening with your landlord. He's putting in that mirror, and you're just
mirror thing?
Yes, we are a two-way mirror.
All right, so for our listeners, we were late recording because our landlord was installing a mirror in our bathroom and taking fucking forever to do it. I don't know why.
And Hoodie is pretty sure that it was for nefarious reasons.
So I'll just be sure to put some aluminum foil on the backside of the little cabinet thing.
Perfect. And, protects our brain from aliens.
Yeah, that too.
But, yeah, I mean...
Okay, so I wonder if somebody had, discussed the very real human zoos that existed at the time and maybe sparked these.
That's true.
So, I think, the First World's Fair had a human zoo. It was gross, but they had, indigenous people from parts of the world in an exhibit of humans in the World's Fair.
Yeah.
This is very creepy.
Yeah.
Maybe that at this point people are starting to realize the sort of disgusting nature of that at this point. At least the artists are in 1968 realizing that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, I think was there an interest in colonialism and discussing the atrocities of the past at the time?
In the late 60s? Yes.
So I could see it potentially having been brought up in some discussion somewhere and being talked about and then turned into popular culture as things do. I bet you we will see popular culture talking about things like Nazi rallies and ICE kidnapping children very soon.
Occupy your couch.
Yeah, very soon. This is going to be all over our media. In just Star Trek and shit.
You know when Battle Royale was written, that Ralph Ellison story where they the young black kids are scooped up by the rich white people and forced to fight in these rings for all these rich white people over electrified ground and coins and all that stuff.
In that Jenga Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, but it's sort of like that.
But modern, gross.
Well, it's more it's a huge forced I don't know. They're on an island, right? And they're running around this island and have to all stay alive and murder each other kind of deal.
It's the Hunger Games, but racist.
Right.
Yeah. But Ralph Ellison was a black man. He wasn't if I'm not mistaken.
Not really the people doing it in the story.
Yeah.
Which maybe in the Hunger Games too, but
yeah.
I think the Hunger Games pretty much ripped that off, and there's a Battle Royale story by a Japanese author too that pretty much tells that exact story. So I don't think the Hunger Games are anything novel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
That one's also called Battle Royale, I think
so.
But I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly the human, except that it's he's got to get old and die to be reborn, in the utility sense of this.
His body does, right? I don't know if this is just me splitting hairs, but I don't know if he actually ages as much as, like, if he exists outside of time, he's all of these three things. He's
Sure.
both together, shows up, the old man, the middle-aged man who's eating, and the old man at the same time.
Yeah. No, and thank you for splitting hairs. Split the hairs. That's what this shit is all about. It's about a stretch, and to stretch appropriately, you have to split a lot of hairs. I mean, it's like a very. I go straight to like Buddhism or something like that. But any sort of like more esoteric sort of thinking about in any sort of spiritual sense. AC just turned on. You're looking to get outside of time and space and be, I guess, into the now, but now in the sense of like everything all around us always.
There's something about that, right? There's something about, and again, I think that speaks a little bit to these fighting dichotomies. We talk about like Gnostic religions, and I don't want to get too deep into that either, but like this idea that language and these fighting dichotomies, you can be both existing and not existing. You can be both. God is both existing and doesn't. Man is both, old and young. Existing outside of the traditional definitions of reality is maybe putting too much on Kubrick and giving him too much credit, but there's something there, I think.
Nah, my dude's a rad artist. You give him the credit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it happens in the book, but in the original script, at that point, the space baby actually launches the nuclear weapons that are poised around the Earth at the Earth. I in the original script, I think maybe it didn't make it to the book. I think the in the book, the baby's just like, and he just didn't know what to do next. But
that sort of goes back to childhood's end. There's points in childhood's end where the babies, so all these like magic sort of evolved babies go live on their own continent, and the adult humans don't procreate anymore. So they realize that they're sort of a dead end evolutionarily, so they nuke themselves.
Oh fuck! Oh, but I can't imagine being that sad about my place, the evolutionary ladder. But
well, now I don't know.
Definitely below like whales, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are at about like 2 hours. So
shit.
No, we're not at 2
maybe
hours.
a little over
We're an hour and a half. We're okay.
But we did have that point in the middle. So I don't know if either of you have any final thoughts. I know you have in-laws to get to. We have a haircut to get to.
We got a life to live.
Yeah. What did we miss? I feel like there's lots to go over, and I sort of like pushed it along. But did I skip anything?
I mean, nothing. I don't think there's anything we could just point out real quick before we move on. I feel like 2001 might be one of those movies that we could spend, 4 or 5 episodes just going on and digging into. And
we can do that if you want to come back and talk about it more. We can absolutely do that. We also we owe Young Neocon another Star Wars or Star Trek, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I do that all the time. But
so I got another idea that if at some point. So this movie reminds me of another more recent movie that I also love.
Okay.
Called Under the Skin.
Okay.
If at some point you're like, hey, I don't know what we're gonna watch next, I can't figure it out. Please watch Under the Skin, and I beg you to bring me back to do Under the Skin because I love it so damn much.
Totally do that. I love, even if I don't like it, like if it's somebody who has a movie that they feel some kind of way about, I don't care if it's good or bad, we can come on and talk about it. We have another guest lined up for next week, I think.
What the fuck? This movie sounds awesome.
We should do that.
So like the idea that using audio and sort of sounds to impart this sort of ineffable, visceral feeling, nothing did that to me more than Under the Skin. And it's got a twist at the end. If you don't know it, that blows your damn mind.
That's my shit.
So, little preview for the listeners. Under the Skin, couple of weeks coming up with guest star Hoodie Guthrie again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I missed anything. I mean, there's lots of little things we could talk about, but
we can do a part 2 of this episode.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, we can talk about 2001 whenever. I fucking love this movie.
Amen.
I kind of want to do a Patreon at some point. We kind of took like a 2-week break because I had to go to New York, which sucked, and then it's usually Pinko's fault when we don't have an episode. So if you ever want to yell at me, go for it. But I kind of want to do a Patreon with bonus episodes eventually. And that would be a cool thing to like come back and revisit movies that we've done already that we have more to say. You know, you have those, what's it called? It's like a French phrase, stairway thoughts. But like where you like leave a conversation and then you're like, oh, I should have said.
Oh, I don't know that phrase. That sounds like a rad phrase though, because it's every interaction I've ever had.
Yeah.
Right.
It is Le Spirit de l'Escalier, or the spirit of the stairs. Staircase wit.
Okay.
The thing that you were like, oh, I should have fucking said that.
Yeah. Anytime to me.
Yeah, exactly. We have a whole just that.
Times people have been mean to me.
Yeah, just times Barto wronged.
And what I should have said.
What I wanted to say to that fucking customer.
No, we can do that too. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything like online or in like your internet life that you'd like really fucking like to plug or anything like that?
Or do goods in the world?
Yeah, or other people.
Do you have money to raise, or a thing to raise money for school supplies? Maybe, I don't know.
Not really. No, not really. I guess I don't have anything to plug other than if you're on Twitter and you want to add to this little thread where we just say nice things about people we like.
Aw.
Join that. I've said a few things. Was that?
That's your pinned tweet?
Yeah, that's my pinned tweet. I just thought if there'd be a nice place to where we just at people.
That's beautiful.
That's so sweet.
I love it.
Oh, I've not noticed that before. I'm going to absolutely do this.
Yeah, I have some things to say.
Follow my dude, Hoodie Guthrie, at Moan Water.
It's MOAN Water.
Yeah, nice and stupid.
No, it's good.
No, it rules. Yeah, follow him. He's fun and nice. And you know,
and a great teacher.
Yeah, a great teacher. I don't know. Also, you know, follow at popcorn_pod.
You did it.
Yeah, first try. We're SoundCloud.com/the Conquest of Popcorn.
We are not on Mastodon, and we will not be.
Yeah, I will never toot.
I will not toot. Tooting is for people who eat beans, and I'm on a low-carb diet, so I don't eat beans.
I'm at El Barto Army.
I'm at Pinko_snob.
And again,
Hoodie
thanks
Guthrie.
for joining us, Hoodie. It's been a joy.
Anytime. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And,
all right.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Have a great week.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade. And the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today.